Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today, Karen demands to drive my car. Big mistake. After that, am I the jerk for leaving the restaurant because of what my husband did? And after that, my husband expects me to pay for his kids' tuition. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to drive someone else's car. What would I need a car for? I never leave this room. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen demands to drive my car. Big mistake. So a few years ago, I bought the old car from my dad. He bought a new one and mine was on its last wheel. Since I'm comfortable with that car and knew my dad was the only owner, I bought it. Note, I'm very stupid and thought he changed the title into my name, but that never even happened. It's not a pickup nor a van. It's a minivan with a big trunk. You can fit loads of stuff in there and even sleep in it if you're a smaller sized person like myself. Anyway, since I still live at home, they use my car like it still belongs to them. I've told them many times that I don't like how they use it, but they'll get mad and say I don't do anything and can at least lend them my car. Sometimes they ask, sometimes they just take the car, and I can't even go to my friend's house like we planned. When I say no, they'll get passive aggressive and start guilt tripping me. After everything we've done for you? If my sibling or a friend needs larger stuff moved like a shelf or something, they use my car. Bought new tires, a fridge, a washing machine, they use my car. My sibling and their drunk friends need to get picked up from a party, they use my car because it can fit 6 people. Doesn't matter that they called it ugly before and would never even drive it. If there's garden waste to dispose, which car do they use? Exactly, mine. They try not to make it dirty, but it still gets dirty. But what bothers me the most is that afterwards it stinks like manure and it has insects in it. I pay for gas, insurance, and all the other stuff. My dad does repairs, but so does he on every other car of my mom or siblings. And I of course pay for the parts and give him money, but it's still not my car. I'm very attached to my belongings and I treat them well. It doesn't matter what it is. Since I was a kid, my parents always forced sharing on me. Wouldn't mind letting my sibling or cousin play with my toys if it was my decision, but getting the toy ripped straight out of my hands and I wasn't allowed to complain because they would say how selfish I am, and then getting a destroyed toy back is frustrating. This car is my biggest and most expensive belonging. It's an older model without much technology in it, and I like it that way. I don't want a different car, so I try to treat it well so I can have it longer. Yeah, I'm sentimental about it. Today I had enough. The following story broke me and I started crying. My aunt called and demanded that my mom drive her with my car to help her with a carpet. My mom asks me, I say no. My aunt gets all upset and angry. Why? First of all, Aunt has a car, but it's currently under repair. She knew about the carpet since 2 weeks ago, but suddenly it's important to her when the car is at repair. Second, the carpet isn't that big. It comes in pieces that fit in a regular car. Third, they have more cars than the one that gets repaired. Also, they have a trailer. They kept pressuring me and I couldn't anymore. I started crying. Why is it always my car? Why can't I have that one thing? My sibling gets to have 2 cars in their name and no one uses their cars. I said if I ever buy another car, I'm gonna get the tiniest car on the market so that they can't exploit me and use it, despite the fact that I feel unsafe in such small cars. My mom just stood there watching me cry. I love my car, but I hate the shared crap so much. If my dad sold the car to a stranger, they wouldn't access it anymore. But this is different because family. I'm so done. Cut your losses. Buy a different car by yourself. Cancel insurance on the car that is still in your dad's name. Tell them what you did. Do not renew the license on it since it's in his name. Sooner or later, they will get caught driving without insurance or proper licensing. Gas? They have to buy it. Maintenance? It's in your dad's name, so it's not yours to deal with. Don't let anyone borrow your next car, and keep the keys with you at all times. If they do somehow take your car, call it in as stolen. They're simply taking advantage of you. Time to cut those strings. You are the adult here. Demand the money back. Tell them since the car isn't in your name, then you didn't actually buy the car, so they essentially stole money from you. Also, newer, smaller cars might not make you feel safer, but in an accident, you are safer than in older cars. They are designed to crumple and spread the force of the impact away from the people inside the car, where older vehicles don't do that at all, or are not as good at doing that. And this is why I disliked my ex's family so much. None of the kids owned their cars outright. The parents held the titles and used it against their kids all the time. When I bought my car, the title was sent to my ex's home address, and father-in-law kept the pink slip stating his coworker, who we bought the car from, wanted more money. I was upset. The guy was already paid, and I didn't know my ex would have it sent there when we lived at another residence. I went right then at 1 a.m. to the bank and pulled out the last of my funds and told him to get my slip ASAP. I will never have anyone hold my transportation hostage. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you keep letting them use your car or not? Please let us know. I'd set up a booby trap in it. Have you ever seen the Goonies? Am I the jerk for leaving the restaurant because of what my husband did? I would like to start and say that my, female 29, husband, male 35, comes from a well-off family, and most of his friends are well-off too. Unlike me and my family, we come from humble, working class, and we don't own a lot of assets like my in-laws do. My husband cares about appearances. At first, he didn't care how I dressed, but he did buy me things that he said I would love, but nothing was my style really. After marriage, he sat down with me and told me that I 100% get to choose how I look except when I'm with him or his family, and introduced me to brands to choose my new clothes from, and I started wearing them whenever I'm with his family and friends, although it limited my choice on what to wear because I'm more into simple things. For his friend's birthday that was celebrated at an upscale restaurant, my husband bought me a $300 dress to wear for the occasion, but I didn't like many things about it. I told him I'd just wear my $60 floral maxi dress. He didn't think this was a good idea and said that I didn't have a choice in the matter. I said, I either wear the dress or I don't go. He said fine then, whatever, but still wasn't happy. We got to the restaurant and no one said anything about my dress, except his other friend who said I looked great. After dinner, my husband moved quickly and spilled wine all over me. He freaked out and said that he thankfully had a replacement, then pulled out the $300 dress he previously wanted me to wear from a bag. This whole time I couldn't help but think he deliberately spilled the wine on my floral dress to force me into wearing the other one. He handed me the dress and told me to go change. I got up, but instead of going to the restroom, I made my way to the door. He asked me to wait, but I kept walking while opening my phone to get an Uber to get me home. I stood outside and started arguing with him. He said he didn't get why I was behaving like this and embarrassing both him and myself like that. I said that he looked down on my dress and tried to trick me into wearing what he wanted me to by spilling wine on me. He told me to go back inside, but I said I won't move until my Uber arrives. He threw a fit, calling me an embarrassment, and stood there until I left. At home, he went off on me, saying I could have worn the dress and not made a scene, and then doubled down and walked out. Again, I said he disrespected my choices and implied I was an embarrassment. He said he was just calling a spade, and I should quit acting so insensitive and getting offended over nothing. He said I made a joke out of him in front of his friends, and one of them, the one who complimented my dress, and the one who constantly tries to video chat with me whenever he sees me online, tried to call me, but I didn't respond because he made me uncomfortable. Am I the jerk? Did I handle this right? Edit. His friend, the one who constantly tries to open video chat with me whenever he sees me online, makes me uncomfortable by constantly flirting with me. He's 2 years older than my husband and has been overstepping and flirting with me every chance he gets. I told my husband, but he brushed me off and accused me of trying to isolate him from his friends by making stuff up. I'm 100% not, and I have picked up on his friend's bad vibes since the day I met him. He comes over more frequently, and I can't just tell him to leave. Red flags. Not the jerk, but what on earth? To just be sitting on a spare dress through a whole dinner? That's unhinged. OP. This was what bothered me so much that I wanted to go home. It felt like he was forcing his choice on me while ignoring mine. It felt like that because that's exactly what it was. He's punishing you for not doing what he wanted you to. I have never in my life brought a date a spare dress. The thought would never even occur to me. Not the jerk. You had every right to leave. But from what you're telling us, I doubt your husband will ever change. OP. He said that these things are relatively small, and there's no way they'd affect our marriage, but he has proven this to be untrue. Not the jerk. He sounds like a controlling jerk. It will only get worse as time goes on. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. Red flags all day, bruh. My husband expects me to pay for his kids' tuition. I'm 32, female, and I'm married to a 36-year-old man, Dylan. We've been together 7 years and we're married for the last 3. We both have previous kids from prior relationships. My kids are 12 and 9. His are 16, 14, 9-year-old twins, along with an 18 and a 19-year-old that are not his biological kids, but he continues to help raise. Up until lockdown, Dylan was making twice my salary. His job made cuts, and unfortunately, his was one of them. He still makes pretty decent, but now I'm making 3 times more than him thanks to a promotion a couple years ago. His ex-wife, I wouldn't say she's bitter or a gold digger, but that she thinks that we're in competition. For example, we moved to a bigger house, so she moved to a bigger house within the same year. We got another vehicle, and she got another vehicle. I thought maybe I was tripping. That's not what she was doing, but that's exactly what she's doing. Anyhow, my kid's father just remarried and has a new baby on the way, and they just moved into a new home. His wife was put on bed rest, so there's only one income coming into their household. Our agreement was that when we relocated closer, that we would pay for their tuition for private school. Life happened, so I ended up paying for their tuition. Somehow or another, it got back to my husband's ex-wife, and now she's demanding that my husband does the same for their kids. The way our finances are set up is we have a joint account for our expenses together, and then we each have our own personal accounts. He can't afford the tuition, but he asked would I pay for their tuition and he would pay me back. He doesn't care if they go to public or private school. He's trying to please the ex-wife. I told him no after he refused to sign a repayment plan and he called me selfish. I told him if he wants to do what his ex-wife tells him to, then that's where he needs to be. He's already in debt from loans he's taken out for college for her 2 older kids who are not biologically his. Given what I already contribute to our household and our kids as a whole, no, this is something he and his ex-wife need to figure out or leave it alone. Hubby has mismanaged money one too many times trying to please his ex-wife. Not the jerk. He and his ex-wife want to send their kids to fancy schools, they need to pay for it. Or you pay for it and he pays you back. Honestly though, based on your post, not sure how likely that would be. And congrats on the fancy promotion. OP. Thanks. I highly doubt if I'm going to change my mind. Not the jerk. His kids aren't your financial responsibility for college. If he was making so much money before, he should have planned ahead and started a 529 plan way back when they were born and contributed yearly. There's no reason why he can't get Parent Plus loans. My guess, if he doesn't want to do that, is he intends to weasel out of paying you back. Why should you lose out on interest you could have been earning in a mutual fund? Not the jerk. Why are you with this guy? He's in debt and expects you to cover his kids' education? It's disturbing that he went into debt to pay for college for kids that aren't even his. He's not financially sound. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. If you have a decent understanding of finances, don't marry someone who doesn't. You'll fight about it no matter what. Am I the jerk for tricking my in-laws into trying my food? This isn't necessarily my proudest moment, but I'm tired of being the outcast. I'm 32, female, and my husband, Pete, who's 34, comes from a family where the women are all bakers. I'm a baker myself, and I used to sell out of my house under my state's cottage laws, but stopped because I like it just being a hobby. His sister-in-law, Kay, who's 39, is the one who is known for her cupcakes and cake pops. When I first met everyone years ago, it was the first thing I learned. Everyone talked about everything she made. Even when Pete mentioned how good my stuff was, everyone would say that Kay sells hers and they're popular, so they must be better. Whenever I bring treats, they are often left untouched because they are not Kay's. Yes, I've been told that. They ask me to bring something every get-together and never touch it. To be clear, Kay is mainly a baker, whereas I bake and specialize in professionally decorated cakes. Kay says that overly decorated cakes are compensating for their bad taste, and Pete's family agrees. We had a barbecue Monday for Memorial Day, and everyone made their treats. Kay decided to bring cake pops. She posted them on her Instagram the night before. So, and I know this is immature, I made the exact same ones she did. Same flavor and design. We got there, and everyone asked where my treats were. I said they're in the car, and I'll go get them in a minute. So I waited for everyone to be outside, then I brought mine and put them next to Kay's. After we eat, I noticed the family eating my cake pops and not Kay's. She didn't notice at first, and then asked if they weren't feeling cake pops. They said they just ate them, and they were the best she's ever made, and asked what she did differently. Mother-in-law even said they looked so much better in person than in the picture. Kay was confused and said hers were still on the table. That's when I said, Oh, I brought those. Glad you enjoyed them. Her husband said he hadn't had one yet. Lies, he ate too. And everyone else just said, yeah, they were okay. Kay didn't say anything the rest of the night. Pete thought it was funny. He didn't know what I did until the reveal. But his brother, Kay's husband, said yesterday that what I did was mean, and I'm just mad that Kay was a better baker. But Pete said it's ridiculous the family, including Kay, puts down my baking when they won't even try it at all because I'm not Kay. Am I the jerk? Edit. We aren't the only two who bring desserts, just the ones who tend to bake cake more than others. Everyone else's desserts get eaten to some degree except mine. Edit 2. If it's not clear, everyone includes Kay. She has often tried to teach me techniques that I either already know or were completely wrong, so she wasn't innocent in this. Not the jerk, but Pete's family is full of jerks. What you did was petty. I don't blame you for being angry with them, but it was still very petty. For that reason, I give you a soft "you're the jerk" and a high five for making them look dumb. I think you're not the jerk. I also think this is hysterical. I'm also incredibly petty, so keep that in mind when reviewing my judgment. I mean, people are going to say you're the jerk for all that pettiness, but you know what? I'm here for it. Not the jerk. Kay needed to be taken down a notch, and the family needed to hear how crappy they've been treating you. You're not obligated to follow along while everyone puffs up her ego. Well, what do you think? Was OP a jerk for what she did or not? Please let us know. If I were OP, I wouldn't go to any of those family events anymore. You don't need to be around toxic people who mistreat you and disrespect you just because they're your in-laws. Am I the jerk for telling my mom and her husband that I can't wait to turn 18 to leave their house? When I, 16 male, was 5 years old, my mom had an affair and left me and my dad for a wealthier man. For 2 years, I only saw my mom like 4 or 5 times. I can't even remember, but not more than that. Then she disappeared and didn't contact us again. I think my dad thought it was too much responsibility for him, or he was angry at my mom and somehow wanted to take everything that reminded him of her away. So he sent me to live with my maternal aunt, and I only saw him like 2 or 3 times a month for half an hour. Unfortunately, my aunt passed last year. I thought my dad would take me in, but he's busy with his new family, wife and kids. My grandma, Dad's mother, wanted to take me in, but then my egg donor came out of the blue to take me in. When she came to take me, it was the first time I saw her in 9 years, and it felt weird, and it sucked that she hugged me and kissed me as if nothing had happened in those 9 years. She married the man she left us for, and they now have 3 kids, who are 10, 8, and 7. I've been living with them for 6 months now, and I spend most of my time in my room, since we're in another city 6 hours away and I have no friends here. We rarely speak. She tries to talk to me, but I ignore her and her husband. They try to include me in activities, but it sucks seeing them playing the perfect family when I missed everything as a kid, so I don't really like them. Her husband tries to make me call him Dad. He tries to spend time with me and talk to me. He knows I love tennis, so he learned about it and has signed me up for tennis lessons and wants to talk about it all the time he sees me. He even wants to take me to some matches. He introduces me as his son, and I hate it since all I see is the guy that stole my mom from me when I needed her the most. It happened yesterday. He asked me to go with him to the grocery store, and then he met a friend of his, and as his friend hasn't seen me in any family photos, he asked about me, and then my mom's husband said, "He's my firstborn. You didn't know about him because he was living with a sister of my wife's." I didn't make a scene there, but when we got out, I told him to never say that he's my father. He's just a homewrecker who stole my mom. We got home and he told my mom, then my mom, almost crying, said, "You hate us that much, don't you?" So I said, "Of course. You left me and now you want me to act like nothing happened by playing the happy family. To be honest, I can't wait to turn 18 and leave, and I'm not sure if I'll ever want to see you again." She started crying and her husband comforted her, so I just went to my room. They tried to talk to me, but I've just ignored them. I told a friend of mine about this, and he says I'm the jerk. OP, I hope you find peace when you move out. It's going to take hard work on your part, and I recommend finding a good therapist. Your formative years were terrible because of your parents, and I'm saying this from a place of similar experiences. It's going to influence how you grow into adulthood and make new friends and relationships. Having someone who is truly in your corner and can help you navigate your feelings and relationships is an absolute gift, and there's no shame in therapy. Also, if you can start saving money now and thinking about college and employment, don't tell your parents. Have a secret account. Start planning your move now. I wish you all the best. Not the jerk. A good therapist will be an investment in your future. Your parents should have put you first, but instead both abandon you for their own selfish reasons. Not the jerk. Not the jerk, because honestly, what teenager hasn't said this at least once? Your mom should know better than to inflate the drama here. She's feeding on it, which is a pretty big bad parenting flag. Am I the jerk for uninviting my boyfriend from a trip after hearing him insult a personal tradition of mine? I, 21 female, have a tradition that I hold dearly. Growing up, I had a deaf friend who I'll call S, 20 male. We've been friends for almost 18 years before he passed after a drunk hit and run a year ago. When we were young, I was struggling to learn American Sign Language, and S would teach me. When attempting to sign to him my birthday, I signed the wrong month. My birthday month is in June, and I accidentally signed January. Ever since, our tradition was us celebrating my birthday twice, once in January, then on my birthday. It was extremely silly, but it was a tradition we had and continued doing up until the time he passed. This year will be my first time celebrating the tradition without him, but several of my family members and my boyfriend, 22 male, offered to celebrate with me this year. My boyfriend knows how much this tradition means to me and has met S multiple times before he passed, so it's not like he doesn't know nor understand the tradition at all. This year, we're planning to go down to Disney to celebrate, and I bought my boyfriend a ticket. I wanted to personally hand it to him and head over to his place. Once there, his roommate let me in, and I overheard him talking to his friends about the tradition and how he found it so stupid, and that he didn't understand why I wanted to do the tradition since S is now gone, and I'm just wasting money. Immediately, I let my presence be known, and I confronted my boyfriend. He attempted to cover himself, but I let him know that he's not attending the trip with me. My boyfriend is upset at me and saying how I was a jerk for peeping in on his private conversations, and that I should have heard him out, then removed him off the trip, and that I'm overstepping his boundaries and overreacting. Honestly, I'm mentally stunned that I'm stuck in this limbo, and I don't know what to do nor how to respond. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. If he didn't want to be overheard, then he shouldn't have been saying it out loud. This. And OP, I've been married for 12 plus years, and my husband has never insulted something that was important to me. I think your boyfriend's comment says something about him as a person, and I would be ending things. He saw your love for this person. He knew how important this tradition was to you both, and he still felt that way. Those are his true feelings. He's just not a good person. Your husband has never insulted something that was important to you? Just because you've never heard him say it doesn't mean it's never happened. Just because you felt the need to comment that doesn't mean you should. Well, your husband might not have said it to your face anyway. Why would you say that? They're clearly in a relationship based off of trust, and you just come in with such a sad comment like that. Not every relationship is with two jerks. Well, what do you think? Should OP let her boyfriend go on the trip or not? Please let us know. No, and I don't know why he'd want to go if he thinks it's so stupid. Am I the jerk for backing out of paying my sister's tuition after learning new information? My sister received an email in mid-May that said she would be withdrawn from college if she didn't pay off her remaining college balance by next week. At the time, we all thought withdrawn meant expelled, and my parents and I strategized to each give a certain amount of money to help my sister. Now, I'm also a recent college grad, and I'm saving to move out and take care of my own expenses. Paying this for my sister is a huge sacrifice, and I know that, but I thought it was worth it at the time. I called my sister's school on her behalf to see if we could get flexibility on the payment date, and what they told me was that withdrawn is not the same as being expelled. It's mostly an administrative process, and once her balance is paid, she'd have no trouble getting back in. So when my sister starts working this summer, she'd be able to pay her tuition off herself. However, my mom and sister are rushing to pay this right now because my mom thinks being withdrawn is a big deal, and my sister's having issues with her summer trouble because she needs to prove she's an enrolled student via her transcript. However, A, it's not a big deal, and B, her transcript won't be updated in time anyways, so paying off her balance and crossing her fingers won't help. In addition, my sister let me see her account, and 1, the balance is larger than we thought, and 2, it's mostly for her appointment expenses. Thing is, we've all, including me, been sending her hundreds of dollars a month to help with her apartment expenses on top of the financial aid she receives, even though the apartment was a decision all of us warned her against. At this point, I think my sister should be the main one responsible for paying off her balance when her job and tax return comes in. I love my sister, but I'm tired of subsidizing her bad choices. I was going to do it when the situation was dire, but now that I know withdrawn does not mean expelled, I won't. Am I the jerk? Also, info. I've given my sister over $2,000 this year already. Not the jerk. You're basically a safety net, as you said, for your sister's bad choices. Not the jerk. There isn't such urgency to pay off the account, and like you said, your sister has been making questionable financial choices. OP. She spent $500 on her hair alone this semester and just bought a new nail kit. At this point, I'm just venting, but I'm tired of having to cover her constantly. So stop enabling her. If your parents want to continue bailing her out, let them, but tell her no more from you, not the jerk. Entitled Aunt nearly ruins free vacation. This story happened before lockdown. I love Ireland. My grandmother told me stories and inspired a pride and love for my heritage and taught me how to properly represent myself. I am not Irish, but my ancestors were. Years ago, I started studying Gaelic, the Irish language. I'm still very novice at speaking and understanding it, but I enjoy trying to learn and like hearing it spoken. I was starting to think about another trip when one of my cousins contacts me. We never had much contact because we grew up so far apart, but I liked him well enough. He had started learning Gaelic and was interested in having someone to practice with, so we did. We helped each other and learned together. It's difficult language, and like I said, still very novice. Well, I was planning a trip to Ireland. I had been a few times, but this time I wanted to stay in the Gaeltacht, the regions of Ireland where Gaelic is primarily spoken instead of English. The people there speak English, but as a second language. I thought my cousin would enjoy a trip as well. I spoke with my uncle and we made a deal. Since cousin was in his first year of college, I told him if he finished his freshman year with at least a 3.5 GPA, I would pay for him to go with me. He worked really hard and was taking mostly honors classes and came out with a 3.4. I, of course, let him feel a little grief from trying so hard only to come up short, then told him that he was still going with me. You could say I shouldn't have, but he genuinely worked very hard, and I believe he earned it. Plus, he's a good kid, and I want to encourage him to keep working hard in his education. Now for a little quick background. My cousin's parents, Aunt C and Uncle T, are people of limited means. Not speaking poorly of them, Uncle T works hard to give them a comfortable life. Aunt C is my dad's sister, and the grandmother I mentioned earlier is her mom. Uncle T is the son of Italian immigrants. While trying to put Cousin B through school, they couldn't afford to send him on vacation, but I assured them the whole trip was on me. I actually was splurging a bit because I wanted it to be an awesome experience for Cousin B. I got business class seats for the flight and booked 2 rooms on a really nice bed and breakfast. I was excited. My cousin was so pumped he was shaking. Then Uncle T calls me. He asked if there was any chance I could include him and Aunt C on the trip. He understood it was a huge thing to ask and stressed that it was no pressure. I thought about it a bit and decided I would bring them along. My grandmother would have praised the generosity. I told him that since it was so close to the trip, I could only get them economy seats, and he said that that was fine. I also managed to book another room at the B&B. I also expressed that the purpose of this trip was for Cousin B and I to interact with native Gaelic speakers, but there would be some time for sightseeing. We could also visit the town our ancestors came from in County Mayo. This is where I learned what a Karen my Aunt C is. It started at the airport. I had managed to upgrade their tickets to Economy Plus, which on an international flight is not too bad. But my aunt was saying that Cousin and I should sit there while the grown-ups get the nice seats. I was 30 at that time. My cousin was 19. My uncle looked embarrassed. She told Cousin B to give her his ticket, and he almost did. I had to nip this in the bud. I paid for all of these seats, so I will determine who sits where. Those are still nice seats. Enjoy your flight. Aunt C. Oh, so since you paid for everything, you think you're in charge? Me. Yes, and if you don't like it, you can go home. She huffed but stayed silent. Uncle T gave me a wink, and Cousin B apologized for his mom's behavior. At one point, he quietly said to himself, "She always does this." Great. We arrive in Ireland and took a cab to our bed and breakfast. The first 2 days were great. Cousin B and I went out and tried to awkwardly converse with the locals who were as gracious as you could wish for and helped us a lot. We mostly did stuff separately from Uncle and Aunt, which was fine, but I noticed Aunt was getting a little edgy. And on our fourth morning at breakfast, she snapped. One of the girls working at the B&B brought them their breakfast and apparently greeted them in Gaelic, like she did every morning. This was the point where everyone there began to hear, "Does anyone in this place speak English? Oh God, it's like being in a foreign country. My grandmother lived her whole life here. She could speak English. Why can't you?" Before I could appreciate that my aunt had actually said, "It's like being in a foreign country," I was out the door and running across the yard. I apologized to the poor girl and gave her a €50 note, then went to talk to my aunt. "Do you not understand what I told you about this part of Ireland? I thought I explained that Irish Gaelic is the primary language spoken here. Most people will start interactions in Irish, and it is a big part of the B&B's business too." She just sat in her room looking huffy, and Uncle T told me he'd handle it. He had fallen in love with Ireland and had been thoroughly enjoying the trip, so I let him deal with it. Then went to talk to the landlady to ensure we wouldn't be thrown out. She didn't tolerate mistreatment of her staff, but said if it happened again, they would have to leave. That day, I had rented a car and would be driving out to where my ancestors originally lived near Castlebar. I invited Aunt and Uncle, but Aunt just stayed in the room. So the three of us went without her. It was an emotional thing visiting the little village, and I can't describe it, but Cousin and I both felt like we could feel the spirits of our ancestors there. I know it's corny, but it was powerful. We found the graves of some of them as well. Uncle was mostly silent and respectfully let us experience it. Later, he told us about his parents leaving Italy. Rest of the trip was pretty quiet, but Aunt C never left the room or spoke to anyone there. Although she did charge a pretty expensive lunch to the room, my card, through a local high-class restaurant. Uncle T offered to pay me back for it, but I refused. We flew back, and the whole flight Cousin was going on and on about how amazing it was. It was clear that he had found a new love for international travel. So I told him if he keeps his grades up, maybe we could go next summer. It became a regular trip for us, but never again brought the parents, except for his final year. I was not going to have the time off to go, but thought I would mix it up. For a graduation gift, I sent him and Uncle T to Italy to see where that part of his family was from. I intentionally left out Aunt C, and she was upset about it, but never got back to me, though I heard she was deeply insulted. If anyone is wondering if I had other cousins, aunts, or uncles who were jealous, the answer is yes. My dad has 6 siblings, and all of them have kids in a wide spectrum of ages. When asked why I never brought any of them, I said it was because Cousin B was the only one to show any serious interest in our heritage and the language. While granted, most of our trips involved failing to converse with people, then saying, "oh well," and heading to the pub, it was still a fun challenge for us. However, if any other cousins wanted to show a serious interest in the language, they would be welcome. None did. Huge shout out to our newest official channel member, Jordan. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It really means the world to Reddit Boy and I. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.